I have been playing MMORPGs for most of my gaming life, to be honest, all the way back to Ultima Online, EverQuest, and more recently World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, Black Desert, you name it, the list goes on and on. I've pretty much seen everything the genre has to offer at this point. But there's one thing I've noticed over the years, and that's that most MMOs kind of forget the second M, the multiplayer section of the genre. They're not really MMOs anymore. They might have massive worlds, sprawling dungeons, hundreds of abilities and systems, but when you strip it all back, you realize something is missing. That vital multiplayer part that we just spoke about. More and more, these games feel like single-player RPGs just with a global chat window. You spend hours leveling alone, queuing into instant content alone, and even when you're surrounded by other players, you might as well just be the only one there. You don't really talk to people for the most part, you don't really collaborate, you don't really build memories with these people, and honestly, that's really sad to me. It's tragic in many ways because the magic of MMORPGs has always been the shared experience. And whilst I was stuck in this mindset for a while, what I will say is that after I tried Guild Wars 2, my perception of the genre has definitely changed a little. It really felt like stepping into a different world, not just because of its design or its story, but because it somehow revived that sense of connection that I really thought was gone from modern MMOs. After now sinking in over 200 hours, I can honestly say that Guild Wars 2 is the most social modern MMO that I have ever played. And of course, by modern, I mean that we've got access to right now. I'm not talking about when the game launched. So today, I want to explain why Guild Wars 2 feels more alive, more connected, and more human than almost anything else in the genre right now. So let's start from the very beginning. When you first load into Guild Wars 2, no matter which race you pick, you're immediately surrounded by, well, life, other players. People are running past you, they're fighting centaurs, they're reviving other people, gathering, chatting, jumping into dynamic events, the list goes on. You see, here's the thing, they're not just new players, you'll often see level-capped veterans working side by side with complete newcomers, honestly, in the starting zones. That instantly blew my mind, because in most MMOs, those early zones are ghost towns after the first few weeks post-launch. Yeah, you might see one or two people questing in silence, but usually you're just alone, even though you're technically in a massively multiplayer game. But Guild Wars 2's design ensures that every zone in the game stays relevant forever. This is done through its level scaling system, where even a max level player gets scaled down to match the zone they're in. That means the content still gives them rewards, still feels engaging, and that, well, still matters to them. So rather than being a forgotten tutorial area, every region interior remains alive and bustling, and to be honest, that's genius, because it instantly makes the world feel shared. Not a series of dead maps, but a living, breathing ecosystem. And in my first few hours, I had veterans helping me with events, reviving me mid-fight, and even guiding me towards hidden vistas and hero points that I didn't know about. And that's kind of the community interaction that I hadn't seen in years. I hadn't seen that type of socialization since way back when I played the original RuneScape, or even dabbling into like Ultima Online on my dad's PC. It was kind of scary, really. For me, at least, it's the subtle design choices like this that make Guild Wars 2 stand apart. The world isn't just a backdrop, it's a stage where players of all levels coexist naturally, and that's really nice to see. The real heart, though, of Guild Wars 2's social design really lies in its open world event system. I feel like this promotes socialization so much. I love the fact that they've done away with static quests that you do alone. In Guild Wars 2, the world itself constantly evolves around you through public and dynamic events, often chaining from one to the next. For example, when you see a centaur camp under attack, or a village on fire, or maybe even a lost NPC calling for help, you can just join in with other people. There's no need for group invites, no kill stealing, no loot drama. Everyone gets full credit, full rewards, and full experience, and that changes everything. Instead of seeing other players as competitors, you see them as allies, and that is so important. If someone shows up to your event, quote unquote, you're happy because it means the fight just got easier for you and more fun. This design eliminates so many of the toxic mechanics that other MMOs accidentally encourage. There's none of this my mob or your mob mentality. Everyone benefits from helping everyone else. And because cooperation is built into the DNA of the world, conversation with these players happens naturally. You don't have to force it. The amount of times I've been out in the open world and I've asked questions about certain events or just general things in game, or even just complimented someone's appearance, it's actually quite insane how often this happens. And 9 times out of 10, I don't even think about it or realize I'm doing it. I'm just integrated into the community, just having a good time. Ultimately, it's socialization without pressure, without artificial incentives. These are just people playing together because it feels right at the time. What truly amazes me is how ArenaNet managed to make every piece of content evergreen. And we touched on this a little while ago. It's because of the level scaling and the way the rewards work that even the most seasoned player has a reason to return to the early areas. And the reason why I'm touching on this again is because this is a fundamental component as to what makes socializing in Guild Wars 2 so good and so easy. This content design means that as a new player, you never feel abandoned, you never feel alone, and in so many MMOs, once you hit level cap, the entire world becomes obsolete. It really does. The open world turns into a glorified lobby simulator, something that you run through to reach the real content, which is always gated behind instances or endgame zones. But in Guild Wars 2, the open world is the real content, and I can honestly say I've never logged into this game and seen an empty map, ever. That has never happened. There is always someone nearby doing something, whether it's gathering, doing hearts, fighting a boss, or just exploring or just shooting the shit. There are people everywhere. And because those people are from all walks of experience, the community naturally blends together. If you're brand new to the game, you might ask for help on a certain mechanic, or maybe if you're a veteran to the game, you might stick around and give tips or guide someone in a tricky situation, or maybe just answer questions they might have about trivial things in game. The game's design makes mentorship, and I really hate that term because in other games it means something very different, but here that mentorship is a natural part of the experience. It's not something forced through systems or titles. And that simple but elegant choice, keeping all the content relevant, creates an MMO world that never feels lonely. Now, of course, we need to talk about the people. Guild Wars 2's community has a reputation for being one of the kindest in the genre, and honestly, I kind of brushed this off when I first started as something that every MMO says within the space. It's something that players of that particular MMO will say, we've got the best community over here. Everything's really nice, but in Guild Wars 2, these guys and girls, they're not lying. I really didn't believe it until I experienced it myself. For example, in my first few dungeons, I had no idea what I was doing. Hell, I didn't even know how to get to the dungeons in the first place until I literally just typed in the party, can you guys help me? How do I get to the dungeons? Or, even when we were in the dungeons, I was like, sorry if I mess up here, it's my first time. Honestly, instead of being met with silence or toxicity, the group just welcomed me. They just said, hey, how are you getting on with the game? Hope you're enjoying it. They stopped at certain crucial moments for the story, because you can do the story components for dungeons, and everyone was just really cool. They were super quick to give me advice, explain mechanics, and told me not to worry if I mess up too much. And no one, in my opinion, was rushing. No one was raging. Everyone was there to just have fun. Even in World versus World, which is essentially large-scale PvP, which you would kind of expect to be this hyper-competitive PvP environment, people were surprisingly very helpful. I remember when I first spawned into World versus World, having no clue what it was, why I was there, or what I was doing, and I was just like, okay, I'm just going to go for this, I'm going to ask the questions and see what happens, and instantly, 3 or 4 people in the team chat answered me back straight away, super helpful, and I was fast on the track to progression, to understanding World versus World, and now it's one of my favorite game modes in the game. Even now when playing, I often ask for any food buffs or guild banners, that sort of thing, and it's never met with silence. People are just happy within seconds to put something down for you. Normally there is an abundance, and because there are so many plates of food going down, people type funny things about them, and it's kind of like a little social moment which I really cherish every time it happens. I guess it's moments like this that stick with me, because whilst they're not really a big deal mechanically, they are a big deal to me because these moments are so very human, and that's really nice to see in an online game. Guild Wars 2 manages to encourage helpfulness at every level, whether it's small things like reviving others or bigger community actions like organising world boss runs, hero point runs, that sort of thing. And it works because the game never really pits players against each other in toxic ways. It's all about shared success. Now, this is going to be a controversial topic and might ruffle some feathers here, but in my opinion, it's very true. One of the biggest reasons Guild Wars 2 feels so social is because there's almost no elitism. I'm not saying it doesn't exist at all, but it is a very small portion of the game. From my experience, at least in the content that I've dabbled in, there are no required damage meters, no performance logs, and no obsession with passing or ranking. I'm sure it exists, and I know there are third-party tools that exist, but they aren't central to the culture, and that is a real breath of fresh air. In many MMOs, endgame content becomes this wall of anxiety. If your DPS isn't perfect, if your gear isn't optimal, you risk being kicked, shamed, or just ignored. But in Guild Wars 2, the focus is on cooperation, not competition. The gearing system is simple, attainable, and doesn't create a massive gap between players. That's why the likes of Fractals, Strikes, and Quick Play modes feel genuinely fun. If someone dies or falls behind, it's fine. People will revive you and move on. If you get stuck at the back of the pack, quite often you can teleport to them. There's this unspoken understanding that everyone was new once. That kind of culture doesn't happen by accident. It's the direct result of game systems designed to prioritize teamwork over ego. And because of that, I've had more genuine, enjoyable interactions in Guild Wars 2 in the time that I've spent playing than I've had in years across other MMOs. In fact, I have to say one of my favorite things about Guild Wars 2 is how often you bump into people in the most unexpected places. It doesn't matter if I'm at the top of a snowy peak, deep in the jungle, or halfway up a cliff chasing a vista, I will always suddenly bump into another player just doing the same thing or just hanging out. It's really cool to have these moments as they kind of spur on a bit of a conversation just by being in that moment together. You just stand there just admiring the scenery together, just talking about whatever comes to mind at the time. It's not planned, it's not forced, it's just organic, and that's what makes it special. Sometimes being in those quiet corners of Tyria with a stranger feels more meaningful than any raid or meta event. It's a reminder that you're never truly alone. The world is very much shared, and that alone is magical. And then, in my opinion, you have the pinnacle of what makes a social experience in Guild Wars 2, and that would be the World Boss meta events. These are massive, community-driven moments that showcase everything Guild Wars 2 does right. You'll see hundreds of players gathering at once, chatting whilst waiting for the spawn, sharing buffs, joking around, giving tips to newcomers. It's really, really nice to see in the landscape that we live in. It's really cool to me that people from all walks of life with all different trials, tribulations, and troubles can forget that for a moment and just come together to enjoy something outside of the troubles of real life. Everyone is there for the same reason, and that's to take part in something bigger than themselves. And when the boss finally spawns, the music kicks in, it's this incredible moment of unity, and I'll never forget my first time in the swamp because I really was not ready for what was about to happen. Either way, win or lose, everyone is in it together, and I really love that. That's something most MMOs try to capture, but Guild Wars 2 actually delivers on. So, to summarize, after over 200 hours in Guild Wars 2, I've realized something simple but truly profound. This isn't just a great MMO, it's a social experience designed around community. It's a world where every design choice, from level scaling to reward systems, is built to keep people together, where competition takes a backseat to collaboration, and where kindness is the norm, not the exception. In an era where MMOs often forget what massively multiplayer truly means, Guild Wars 2 stands as a reminder of what made this genre so magical in the first place. It's not just about the grind or the loot or the achievements, it's about people, about the moments you share, the friendships you form, and the sense of belonging you find along the way. So, if you're like me, someone who loves MMOs but misses that true feeling of community, give Guild Wars 2 a try. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. You may even just rediscover what made you fall in love with the genre in the first place. As always, if you enjoy these sort of videos, please do consider leaving a like rating, subscribe if you're new here for more Guild Wars 2 stuff, and I'll see you in the next video.